It really does boil down to those 4 steps. So keep things clean, wash your hands, separate things, keeping raw meats away from your ready-to-eat foods. If you're prepping things at home, make sure you're keeping knives and cutting boards separate so you're not getting into any cross-contamination issues. Cooking things properly, such as your meats, whatever it is, using that food thermometer is so important. Don't rely on color. Color is not a reliable indicator of doneness, because even in hamburgers, we've had lots of research done over the years that proves that, the color could still look pink, but yet they may be done. And vice versa. It may look done, the color inside may be brown, but it may not be to proper temperature. So always use a thermometer. And then keeping things cold, keeping things below 40 degrees, and it'll stay a whole lot safer in the end.
Picnic and barbecue season offers lots of opportunities for outdoor fun with family and friends. However, these weather events also present opportunities for foodborne bacteria to thrive. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, as food heats up in warmer temperatures, bacteria multiply rapidly. To protect yourself, your family, and friends from foodborne illness during warm weather months, the FDA says that proper food handling practices need to be followed. On today's Sound Living, warm weather food safety tips. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. Keeping food at proper temperatures, indoors and out, is critical in preventing the growth of foodborne bacteria. Kansas State University food scientist Karen Blakeslee says the key is to never let food remain in the danger zone. That's between 40 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours. Karen, those warm weather events are starting to kick off, and those really provide a great opportunity for foodborne bacteria to not only thrive, but to really thrive quickly. And that's what we're going to cover today, is just ways to be safe when you're out doing the picnicking or even the grilling. And I guess that really kind of starts with just making sure that things are packed and being transported properly.
Exactly. Yes, warm weather is here. Faster than we thought. So if you are planning to get outside and doing some picnicking, plan to have lots of ice with you, I guess I would say, to start with. We want to keep things cold and plan accordingly. One suggestion I would give is to have a couple ice chests, one with the beverages in it, because that's the one that's opened most often. So that way those are separate and hands can get in there. And then the other one can contain all the food. You may even want to pack, if you're taking along any raw meat of any sort, like hamburgers, pack those separately just to keep them separate from anything else. You don't want any accidents to happen with packages getting torn or anything like that, and meat juices running onto your ready-to-eat foods. So think about how you're going to pack things up, keep things separate as much as you can, and keep things cold until you're ready to cook them.
This is going to sound like an odd question, but does it matter how you do the ice? Does some ice go in first and then things go on the top of that, or just you throw everything in the bottom and throw the ice on top?
Well, you want to try to surround the food with ice. That way everything does get cold. If it's all on the bottom and you set the food on top, there's some cold air in there, I guess you would say, but it really doesn't get in direct contact with the packages of food. So you want to try to surround it. So put some on the bottom, put the food in, and put some more on top. That would be the ideal way to do it.
When we get to the site and we're thinking about, gosh, how clean is this? Sometimes the sites are not as clean as you would like. I know you can bring a tablecloth along. They've got a lot of those plastic ones that you can use. That might be one option.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea, because the picnic tables that are in public places are used by anybody and everybody. Plus, there's critters that run around and crawl all over those tables. So take along one of those plastic tablecloths. They can be disposable, too, and then you can get rid of it when you're done. And that way you have a nice, clean spot for everybody to eat on.
I know we also want to make sure that we're keeping our hands clean, so that might mean bringing along some water if there's not water available, maybe some soap or the towelette type things.
Exactly. Even take along some wash rags that are already wet with some soap on them and put those in a plastic bag. Or bring along an extra jug of water with some hand soap. And then if you don't have access to that, disposable hand wipes are usable, and you can throw those away, and they work pretty well. Hand sanitizer is okay, but it really doesn't work as well unless your hands are clean first. They're good in a pinch, but they're even better after you've washed your hands.
I know we talk about washing your hands frequently, and I imagine when we're outside, we may even want to ramp up that frequently.
Yes, I feel there's nothing more important than washing your hands because your hands carry so many germs. You're touching everything. And so before you start handling food, before you start eating, always wash your hands. Even after you're done eating, always wash your hands. I can't stress that enough.
We also want to make sure that we're putting all of the utensils and the plates and things like that in places where they're going to be protected somewhat from the elements.
Sure, yeah, you could have an extra container to hold all those. Of course, disposable ones can easily be tossed away. But if you do have some reusable plastic plates, have something to put them in after you're done using them so that they don't get anything else messed up.
Kansas is notorious for its wind, and that's another thing we have to kind of deal with when we're out in the elements.
Yeah. You want to anchor things down. Take along some, especially if you're putting a tablecloth on a table, get some of those big clips to clamp it onto the table. Or, obviously set the food out on the table. That'll help be an anchor too. But try to keep things to a minimum so you don't have a whole lot of trash blown around. And the other thing, too, is try to think about what are you going to take along and how much, because you want to try to cut down on what food waste is. So try to plan accordingly. Only pack enough food that you and your family are going to eat. That way, you're done with it. You don't have to worry about leftovers, and you don't have any food waste.
Yeah, I know sometimes those family reunions can get way out of hand in terms of food. You end up with 14 pies and no protein.
Yeah, exactly. Pies are great. I'm not one that's going to turn down a pie, but add some variety. Maybe make assignments to different people and say, hey, would you bring a salad or would you bring a dessert or whatever, and spread it out so not everybody brings the same thing.
I mentioned protein, and that is one of the things that we really focus on when we're doing these outdoor cookouts. And we really need to make sure that we're not only keeping the meat cold, but that we're preparing it correctly.
Yes, exactly. So as you're packing things to go on the picnic, pack a thermometer, because that is your best way to know that your hamburgers are going to get done, or your hot dogs, or whatever you're going to cook, your chicken, for example. So if you're cooking hamburgers, the temperature that you're looking for is 160 degrees. Any kind of ground meat, 160 degrees. Any kind of poultry, whether it's ground poultry or chicken breasts or legs or thighs or whatever, you're looking for 165 degrees. And then if you're doing steaks, for example, that's a really good picnic. Having steaks or chops or anything like that, you're looking for 145. So those are the three temperatures to remember. And the other thing on temperature, too, is how long you leave food set out. With temperatures getting warm like this, we recommend that you follow the 2-hour rule. As soon as you take things out of the ice chest, try to get the meal served and done within 2 hours, and then get whatever leftovers you have back in the ice chest to get them cooled off. You don't want to leave food set out any longer than that. That just invites any potential bacteria that may still be in the food, time to grow. And we don't want anybody to have a leftover foodborne illness.
The temperatures we're thinking about here are 40 degrees or below for the cold temperatures,
yes.
And then at or above 140?
Exactly, yes. You want to stay away from in between the 40 and 140. So keep cold foods cold. That's below 40. Keep hot foods hot above 140. So that should be pretty easy to remember.
I know a lot of people are probably wondering, well, bacteria, okay, this has been out 3 hours. It's good. My grandma used to keep stuff out all afternoon. We really can't do that because I guess what I'm asking is, what happens when this bacteria gets into our system?
Well, it depends on the bacteria, really. Something like a staphylococcus, symptoms for that can come on fairly quickly, within 6 to 12 hours. You could get upset stomach, you might have vomiting, might end up with diarrhea, things like that. That's one example of one that can happen fairly quickly. Now, if it's something like salmonella or E. coli or something like that, that may take 2 or 3 days before symptoms show up. So just remember that if you do start feeling sick, shortly after a picnic, it may be from the picnic, but it may not be either. That's the tricky part about this, because the symptoms and the different bacteria that cause these symptoms may show up at different points in time.
Are there some foods that may be more, I guess, bacteria-prone than others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your protein-type foods, any type of cooked vegetables. So potato salad, everybody gets concerned about potato salad, which they should, but it's not because of the mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is actually very acidic, so the mayonnaise is not the problem, unless you're making homemade mayonnaise with fresh eggs. That's different than commercial mayonnaise. But you've got cooked potatoes in there. You probably have got hard-boiled eggs. Those things need to be kept cold because they've been cooked. That's the key on that. Any kind of meats, those are products that have a lot of protein in them. Those can support the growth of bacteria. So it's really, even your green leafy vegetables, we like to have lots of leafy salads. Make sure you rinse your vegetables first with cold running water and scrub whatever you can using a vegetable brush to try to get the dirt out of the cracks and crevices. Peel things that need to be peeled, like carrots, for example. Peel those. That'll take just that slight layer off the outside surface of the carrots. That'll also eliminate any dirt that might be hiding. So think about those things. Make sure you use good food handling practices and good food preparation skills.
And even cutting up the melons, too.
Yeah, exactly. So there has been problems with melons in the past, and you want to wash the outside or rinse them with cold running water, scrub them with a scrub brush, wash that outside rind first because they've been sitting in the dirt. So wash those first and rinse them really well. You don't need to use soap on them. I know I've said wash. What I really mean is rinse. So just use a scrub brush, running water, scrub it really well, and then you can cut open your melons. And then always rinse those pieces off, too, from the flesh, out. Because your knife can transfer bacteria to the flesh. And so, again, that's another one. Any kind of cut vegetables or cut fruit, they need to be kept cold. That helps eliminate a lot of problems, too.
And if you're really organized, a lot of this can be done at home and just transported.
Exactly. Yeah. Plan ahead. That's the best thing you can do. So prepping the vegetables and fruit and things like that, do that at home. Have them ready to go in a container of some sort. And that way all you have to do is pull it out of the ice chest and serve it. And it's simple as that.
I know we talk about this a lot, just the 4 simple steps. And that's really what we want people to keep in mind is that clean, separate, cook, and chill.
Exactly. It really does boil down to those 4 steps. So keep things clean, wash your hands, separate things, keeping raw meats away from your ready-to-eat foods. If you're prepping things at home, make sure you're keeping knives and cutting boards separate so you're not getting into any cross-contamination issues. Cooking things properly, such as your meats, whatever it is, using that food thermometer is so important. Don't rely on color. Color is not a reliable indicator of doneness because even in hamburgers, we've had lots of research done over the years that proves that, the color could still look pink, but yet they may be done. And vice versa. It may look done, the color inside may be brown, but it may not be the proper temperature. So always use a thermometer. And then keeping things cold, keeping things below 40 degrees, and it'll stay a whole lot safer in the end.
That's Kansas State University food scientist Karen Blakeslee. For more information on food safety, visit ksre.ksu.edu/food safety. Storms are another concern during warm weather months. Summer storms can sometimes cause power outages. If you lose electricity, pay attention to what time the power goes out. If your refrigerator temperature goes above 40 degrees for more than 2 hours, you'll need to discard most meats, cheeses, dairy products, and leftovers. Frozen items that are only partially thawed can be refrozen, but food that is thawed and been stored at more than 40 degrees should be discarded. If you're ever unsure whether food is safe to eat after the power goes out, discard it without tasting it. It's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to foodborne illnesses. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.